Welcome back to another episode of the Magnetic Growth Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Emmanuel Young, also known as the Web3 Cat. Emmanuel is a seasoned Web3 marketer who's spent over 10 years in crypto and is currently helping a very, very exciting deep-in project called World Mobile with marketing, specifically heading up their community marketing efforts. Community is arguably the biggest marketing lever in Web3. So today's podcast should be extremely interesting as there are very few people better well versed to discuss this subject than Emmanuel. So let's get into it. Firstly, Emmanuel, thank you for joining me. How are you today?
Thank you for having me on. It's the day after a bank holiday here in the UK, so as I sort of touched on, I've been hit by a torrent of messages and tasks and everything. But this is always the case in crypto and Web3. It never fails to excite me to get out of bed and start working.
There is no days off, bro. There's zero time off, and especially in community, right? I mean, we're going to get into community, but just on the back of that, it is non-stop, right?
For sure. I mean, you've got people from literally around the world, and especially, I take privilege in saying World Mobile is one of the best communities I've ever worked in. You've got people who genuinely believe in the mission that we're doing. So first of all, they'll contact you anytime. But second of all, you don't want to lose that contact because they're talking about connecting people to the internet, which is something so fundamental. So you want to be there to respond to them. And yeah, it can be mentally exhausting at times, but honestly, as soon as I get into a conversation with someone, the exhaustion turns into motivation, really. And I enjoy it so much.
Yeah, I mean, look, managing a community is not for the lighthearted, and it's definitely not for people that are not passionate about what the project is doing, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, as I'm sure you know. And like you said as well, we're already dropping value here. You have to try and nurse a really strong community of loyal supporters and not just gain their trust, but continue gaining that trust by being there to support them when they need it. So we're already dropping bombs, man, and we're a couple of minutes into this podcast, so it's good. But the first question I always like to establish with any guests that come on the podcast is, how are you feeling about the current market? And obviously this changes from like week to week, right? Right now we're recording this on the 28th of May. So Emmanuel, how are you feeling?
Well, luckily I did my portfolio check literally yesterday, so I'm actually I'm well versed to answer this at the moment. I think it's great, actually. I think we're in a period now. So for perspective, I don't believe the sort of bull run is to come or has just started. I've been saying it's been pretty much ongoing since January 2023. So I'm pretty much sitting on my laurels right now. But the sort of excitement that is currently being generated by any significant innovation, and you see all the graphs of the new eyes, which is super important to me, looking at the space and then learning, and you can track their progress from BBC headline through coin market cap, through wallet creation, through transactions, etc. So for me, it's super exciting that everyone in the market is excited about all the innovations that's going on, but also that is translating into new eyes on this space. I mean, in terms of the numbers itself, like I always say, you can't target a number. You can never predict a number. You can never predict a timeline. If you have, this is not financial advice, if you have a good strategy in the background that can enable you to just sit on your laurels and enjoy the excitement of the marketing of the community, that's what you should do. And I've put that into practice, and I get to enjoy the busyness and the sentiment rather than focus on the price charts.
Yeah, it's an interesting take, actually. No one has said that so far in the podcast. No one has said, "Oh, I think we've been in a bull market for a long period of time." Most people are more anticipating a bull market to come. But you're right. Everyone has different opinions. Everyone has differing opinions. There's no right or wrong. But we've been going. Obviously, we pulled back a bit in the previous few months, but prior to that, we were going up for a fair few months. But because it's not like people getting rich overnight. Some people aren't clarifying that as a bull market. So it's
Well,
interesting.
yeah, no, I mean, just to put that into perspective, like I don't say that without any evidence. In January 2023, the price of Bitcoin was around $16,000. Today, it's 70,000. So
Mhm.
any investment that you put your hard-earned money into that goes up 300%, that should be that's more than a bull market. That should be Super Bowl whatever. But yeah, no, the media and especially crypto media like to fixate on the sort of 10x in a week or whatever. So I guess
Of
people
course.
are waiting for that, but I've been in this space for too long to to know that you take your wins when you get them, especially when they're
Yeah.
300.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're taking a much more longer term approach to the market. And like I said, it's hard to be in Web3 and not be in the market. So it's always an interesting question to open up, and it's also a question that influences the behavior or the growth of marketing behavior of projects. Because if projects think the market is primed to grow, they'll start really pushing. So it's really interesting to always try and get that opinion. But yeah, aside from that, Emmanuel, first question, like how and why did you get into Web3 marketing?
Yeah, so this is an interesting story actually because I've always sort of been sort of wanting to do business and focused on products and solving problems, and I actually really hated the marketing side of that because I thought it was spammy and like salesy, always trying to get people to buy something they didn't need. But then I sort of spent around 4 or 5 years in this space. So I started off just through that wanted to do business as a broker, buying crypto from abroad, selling it here in the UK before there were exchanges. So there was a pretty nice margin you could get back in the day. And then after about 3 and 4 years doing that, I then started to look. Well, I was forced to look more at the trading investment side of things, as well as started to be invited to events to explore the technology. And at the same time, as I said, I was forced because the banking system was totally against crypto at the time. It still is, but back then you literally couldn't keep a bank account open to run any crypto business, including the one I was running. So on the one hand, I had the traditional banks like booting me out, and on the other hand, I had this whole new technology, which is all about decentralized banking, decentralized finance. And so I spent another sort of 2 or 3 years just learning, obviously trading and investing that goes on the side with anybody in this space. But having fallen in love with the idea that no one could do to me to anyone else what the banks did to me, I wanted to push that. But then I realized in this space, it was just a bunch of developers. And don't get me wrong, like we have the smartest developers in this space, like Fourier, Vitalik, Hoskinson, etc., etc. But none of them know how to communicate the impact of the problem the technology they're developing to solve this global problem to the rest of the world. And so for me, I wasn't into sort of software and all of that, like granularly, and not being that, I was like, so how can I take what they're building and communicate that to my peers? And that's how I then started to think, okay, well, maybe marketing is the answer here. Well, it is the answer. And I then started to build communities from early on at university, in my local area, etc., online as well, for the idea of onboarding people to this space and explaining to them why this space and how this space is solving that global problem in the banking system.
Yeah, it's a problem driven reason as to why you got into marketing. And you're right, I think I'm in agreement. There is some amazing technology that's just not translated very well into the target audience for that technology, and that comes down to communication really. And I do still think, even though that Web3 technically isn't something so much new anymore, we're still early stage, and we're still figuring out the best way to market it, especially to the retail side out, and people that don't so much have Web3 knowledge. And again, a lot of that comes from the functionality of the technology and product and the expectations. But again, from a marketing team, perspective, if you can highlight an audience that's primed for your product because you solve a problem for them, then you should be influencing what the developers build on, maybe the core stack that they've developed. So yeah, there has to be, you're completely right, such a strong relationship between what's being developed and how well it's marketed. And I don't think we've quite got that right yet. It's hard to say that because we've got $1 trillion in market cap, right? It's hard to say that. It's not
Yeah,
doing
it's
marketing
almost.
well.
I see it as given that it's almost a duty to get this thing right, because we do have
Yeah,
it's already created generational wealth. It's still got the potential to create generational wealth, in my opinion. And given all of that, people don't understand it. Like, you look at the surveys in the UK, for example. So I was just speaking at a parliamentary group, and we were talking about how to onboard talent and skills, which is lacking in this space. And it comes down to communication. So 95% of people in the UK have heard about crypto, but only 35% have ever owned crypto. And I think it's like 30% or something has even heard of the term Web3. And so there is this massive gap in the awareness of the space, and then it gets filled in by the media. But in terms of the utility and like the concepts like Web3, which is actually the Web3 is the umbrella of what this space is. Crypto is just the finance part of that. People don't know. So it's our role to communicate that to people. And yeah, we need to do it. We've got brilliant builders in this space, but focus less on making your blockchain faster, cheaper, more scalable. Take what you've got already and build for a problem. That's how you get
good real
people.
world solutions on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you 100%. Like, for some reason, we seem to be still quite fixated on, like, say for example, let's make gas completely free. It's like there's a ton of solutions and blockchains out there that cost 0.00001 of a cent. Like, making
Exactly.
that zero, is that really the biggest issue we have right now? No, it's not. It is building real world applications that solve problems on the blockchain. But I genuinely do believe that a lot of that has to come from marketers and growth people directing
Yeah.
those teams to build the right stuff. Because clearly we are quite developer heavy in Web3. And this is literally the reason why I created Magnet. Like, our one of like our core kind of fundamental visions is that we don't believe that like building alone will create the next generation of the internet. We believe it has to be a combined effort of building and growing, which creates the next era of the internet. And growth, obviously, is, to us, it's the 5 pillars. One of those is marketing their growth. So that's contained within there. So yeah, I'm a big believer. You're preaching to the choir here, man. But yeah, anyway, so you've been in Web3 marketing, what we saying, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I'd say around 2019, 20 is when I started doing it more professionally. But obviously before then, I started building communities. So,
Sure.
if you put that under the umbrella of marketing as well, it's going back a long time.
I got you. And let's get to the source straight away. In
Yeah.
your tenure in Web3 marketing, what's the biggest Web3 marketing failure that you've made, and what have you learned from it, most importantly?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this morning. Like, the biggest one that I've only realized that I sort of failed at in the past sort of 1 or 2 years is building a personal brand. Now, that is something that another side to this. Like, I also got into this space because I fit like the sort of developer profile, I suppose, in the sense that I like to keep to myself, like just focus on problem solving, etc., etc. But the power in this space that everyone can see with all these KOLs, influencers, etc., of just having a personal brand and leading with authority, putting your thoughts forward, is so immense, especially given this space, despite what we can sometimes think in this space, is so small. So if people know you personally and then they'll see you at conferences and all of that sort of stuff, it creates huge value. And I know you guys at Magnet have experienced this as well. And so, all it took was potentially a tweet a day. I set up a Twitter account specifically for crypto in 2014 or 15. And I didn't tweet once for, I don't know, 7, 8 years. And that's crazy. Like, imagine the impact I could have had if I had just been aware of the utility of a personal brand for that whole time and have been working on it as hard as I've been working on it recently. So for me,
Yeah.
that is it's a missed opportunity. But in taking from that, like, very quickly, I was able to adapt to creating one. And even though I didn't do it for myself, I was doing it for a lot of other projects as well, and learning those skills to then deploy in my own personal. And
Yourself,
like,
yeah.
even though I'm still quite small in presence, like, the amount of opportunities and connections and ideas that come through just a really highly engaged following is the most valuable thing you can get in this space in terms of marketing, in my sense.
Yeah, there's two sides to personal brand, right? I think in Web3, I think the first side is your KOL, your key opinion leader, your influencer type of style. Their objective is to build that personal brand and following to show you stuff. That
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's essentially right what they're there to do. And in most circumstances, not all circumstances, they're getting paid by a project to do that because they've built and nurtured an audience that want to hear about new projects from those people. So it's a kind of a monetary side, let's say, whereas you're more talking about the non-monetary effect of a personal brand. That's always the way I said two sides: monetary and non-monetary. Non-monetary is more if you have a personal brand, how can that build your network, for example? What other opportunities might be brought to the table? Again, all of this stuff can be monetized later on, don't get me wrong, but the initial focus is non-monetary things. And again, a lot of that can be super valuable. So same as you, like, I've put more time into a personal brand in Web3 more recently, especially since I moved to Dubai in kind of October time last year. And I've met more people that have been beneficial for business in this kind of first 6 months of that experience than I have in this space in the last few years. So it does go a long way. And I've had people go up to me and go, oh, I've seen your post on LinkedIn, or I've seen this and so on. And again, same as you, I don't have some huge following or anything crazy, but it's a conversation opener, and the network that I've managed to build from that has produced a lot of value. So yeah, I'm in complete agreement. And I suppose if we flip the coin the other way now, like, there's obviously stuff that you've done well in this space. What's like one notable success that you've had in a Web3 marketing aspect that you can share with us?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always interesting to look back on. Like, I tend to prefer to look back on the failures and what I've learned from those, because it's always much more valuable information to me. But then I do realize, like, my partner's always saying, you've got to reward yourself as well when something hits a milestone. And so, like, I can take some recent examples, for example, and these are sort of maybe more personal to me, but I think they have value going forward in the type of community building that I want to lead with in this space. So at World Mobile, obviously we're global in several countries. The intention is to be the world's leading sort of decentralized telecoms and give everyone back ownership of a resource which is so valuable, the internet. And this necessarily, like, has pockets of support and sub communities in various different countries. And the biggest sort of, I guess, sort of like advantage to that is that you have so many. Not only do you have so many different perspectives, but you also have so many different resources dotted around the world through which you can then say, hey, I'm actually community first. I can go through these guys first to build this thing rather than sort of top down. And more recently, I've been sort of engaging with our communities in Vietnam, and they are honestly one of the top communities within, or cohorts of communities within the World Mobile space. They climb mountains, go on marathons, do cycling races, football tournaments, like week by week events, all using the World Mobile branding without being paid for it. And for me, just a couple of weeks ago, just saying, hey, wait a minute, we've got these guys here that are repping our brand in Vietnam. They're doing all of these things to spread the word there. Vietnam and Southeast Asia are some of the most aware countries when it comes to crypto and adopting crypto, etc. So for us just to support them, I was like, we've got to do it. And so we went in. They did supported them with an event, gave them everything they needed, and not only did that sort of reward me personally and reward them, but then all of the sort of media online that came out of that event, it went down super well, not just with our community, not just with the wider sort of ecosystem that we're in, but with the local community, with the media. And for me, it's sort of proof in the pudding that if you support people that are already engaging with you, it always leads to strong effects and strong results. So for me, it might not seem like a massive success, but I get a massive success in terms of like numbers. I can definitely go into more of those, but I think it's definitely it's something that I want to focus on, building people up that are already doing engaging things with a particular brand, and giving them the support they need to take on part of the marketing output. And yeah, it was a great success in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing marketing hack. To be honest, it's all about focusing on that lowest hanging fruit. I mean, if I got paid £1 for every time I use that term lowest hanging fruit, I wouldn't need to work at all, because I say it so often, man, so often. But it is so key. Like whenever you enter a new project or you're starting a new project, you have to identify what that easiest route forward is. And like you mentioned, you already have people out there that are repping your brand and are showing a huge passion. So is there something that you can do with those guys to create further exposure? Is there an element of community-led growth that you can leverage from that existing community that has already formed? And in your case, there was. So I think this also leads on straight into the next point, diving deeper into community and community marketing and how important it is in Web3. I suppose that's really a question. Like, why is community marketing so important in
Well,
Web3?
yeah, I mean, this answer is obvious to anyone that understands what Web3 is built around. But again, this is part of the communication problem. So we are all about decentralizing anything. All protocols, all Web3, crypto protocols are all about decentralizing decision making, which means giving that, and in doing that, giving that decision making ability to individuals within a community. So it literally, this space cannot function if there isn't a strongly engaged community. And that this space, the technology couldn't function if there isn't a strongly engaged community. And that's why it is so important. So we need to, in this space, we need to empower people who are willing to travel 200-300 miles just to meet up, which I've got some people coming to where I am today doing that. And also these are the guys that are running the nodes that are sustaining our platform. So that's why it's so important, because you literally, who are you decentralizing authority, who are you decentralizing decision making to? It's a community. So you need a community in order for this space to be successful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And again, why is community so prominent in Web3? I don't know, say when you're comparing it to Web2, the biggest aspect is digital ownership and the incentive model. Like, why is someone doing that for World Mobile Token? Why are they going out there and actually trying to operate a node within your network? Well, it's because they might be passionate about what you do, but there is going to be some element of incentive for them. And they have some element, therefore, of maybe ownership. They might own World Mobile Token, for example, WMT. So, yeah, there always comes down to like what's actually powering that community growth in comparison to what we've seen in previous tech cycles. So, it's super interesting. And if you don't develop a community in Web3, I have zero idea what you are doing in this space. No idea. But like,
you're a development company. You're not a Web3. Yeah.
No, it's true. It's true. It's true. Like it is literally like you can't have a Web3 project without a community. It's crazy. And coming down to what powers that community, strategy is obviously an important aspect when you're setting out how you want to nurture that community and grow it. To you, what makes a good community strategy?
Yeah, so I can go. What I'll do is I'll go high level here, and then I'll go into some sort of specific examples. So high level is, as you've just said, you need to get the low hanging fruit, which is always the engaged community members. So giving if your project is good enough, you will, by force of nature, attract people who believe in it and want to help you with it. And then those people then need to be empowered to take on more responsibility to manage the community, to spread awareness, to run the technology, become node operators if you run nodes or whatever it is. And that's the way it should be. So instead of having a sort of a marketer sat at the middle, brainstorming strategies internally with the team or whatever, and then pushing them onto people saying, here, you've got to go out and do that. See what your community members are doing already. Definitely factor that into any strategy. It's always important to have a directed strategy. Factor that into that directed strategy. But also, if what they're doing is performing well, pick it up and support it and get them to do more. So two of the things that I've done at World Mobile, for example, is initially when I came in, there's the ambassador program running. And obviously, traditionally ambassador programs in the crypto Web3 space, it's all about paying people, giving them token incentives to maybe write some content once or so a month, etc. And it's a pay for play scheme. Any new project right now, you see their list of ambassadors, they've always been paid to be them. However, World Mobile, for legacy reasons, took the other approach. So it has all of the ambassadors have a common thread of being in the community for a really long time, since the TGE, operating nodes, producing content, etc., or early ambassadors. One of the ambassadors was the guy that introduced our founder to Charles Hoskinson, for example. So these guys are key people and have been shaping the direction of World Mobile. And then I was like, so how do I take this to the next level? How do I get the people with 40, 50,000 followers and engaged following as well to join World Mobile? So I started to talk to the people that I know who meet that criteria. And actually, after having realized, not after having realized, what happens was one of the old ambassadors was also one of the sort of token shilling guys, and he got into some controversy. And immediately, all of our ambassadors, the community, me, the team, we were like, okay, we have to suspend you. But that made me take stock, and it made me think, okay, well, I can go to all of these KOL people who've never heard of World Mobile. So yes, they can write a post or something and push it, and it will get a lot of reach. But it won't be coming from them. It won't have the historical context of what's gone on in the World Mobile space. It won't even have the nuanced knowledge that some of our guys have with regards to like SpaceX and Starlink and all of those things, to input in that content, and that will show in the content. Instead, what I can do is ambassadors now only come from our community. So they literally only come from our community, people that have already been making content, people that have already been operating nodes, people that are buying more nodes, people that basically are engaging and demonstrating they appeal to the mission. And the benefit of that is that you don't really need to set out a sort of standards for them. You don't need to set up agreements for them other than the formalities. You just ask them what do they need to continue what they're doing. And that has resulted in, I would say, like we've been looking at the sort of metrics on this, it has resulted in the growth of our community over this time. And yes, it could have been bigger if we'd had a KOL with 1 million followers and half of that was engaged following, etc. It could have been massive. But these guys now will help to shape the awareness that will attract those guys. So I've already now got a team of ambassadors that know what we're talking about, that are passionate about it. It shows in their content, and that is going to set us up for the future when we do bring on these bigger guys. So my one tip there is pick from your community.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting paradigm when you were speaking about the KOLs that might already exist that have bigger followings and can bring immediate engagement. It really comes down to like the quality of traffic.
Yep.
Um, if you've got say 10 ambassadors who are going out there and maybe bringing 50 people a month to World Mobile, but those 50 people are extremely high quality individuals that have been sold on the mission of World Mobile based on the person that's brought them in, is that more valuable than maybe chucking 50K at one big KOL who's going to get you a ton of exposure? Or are they going to be bringing you people that might buy into your project for the wrong reasons and not actually contribute to your long-term mission? Now, I think there's a place for both. I think like wider exposure and awareness is always great, and KOLs are an amazing way to be able to get that. But then I also think being able to nurture a community, maybe even assisting your community members and helping them with marketing and building their own personal brands, which in turn helps you, is also super important, because that can really bring that staple community together of high quality individuals. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's a good strategy. You should definitely be doing and building
Yeah,
ambassadors,
I mean,
but there can be a mix, definitely,
yeah, no, of course. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not neglecting the fact that KOLs are important, and also paying KOLs can be important. It's how you manage that. So I don't want to pay KOLs to become ambassadors, because an ambassador, to me and to a lot of people, feels like somebody who is deep into whatever the thing is doing. Like, you can pay someone for exposure for sure, and around product launches, you put some paid social behind it, you put some KOLs behind it. That's great. It gets to a big audience. But really, what you want to do is you want to nurture the people that, like you said, that are bringing maybe 50, even probably less than that, into the community, so that each one of those people are ready to buy your next product. I mean, the evidence for World Mobile is there. Like, we launched a batch of 20 nodes in February at a starting value of around 10K per node up to 100K, and they all went directly to our community within 36 hours. Now, we definitely could have, if we had reached 2, 3, 5 million people, we would have achieved the same result, because it's only 20 nodes and you've got 5 million people. So we definitely would have reached engaged people, but it would have cost us 10 times more. And this is the thing, like, use what you have and see how that goes. And if you need further exposure, then you put the money behind it.
Yeah. I definitely, yeah. There's room for both, definitely, and again, I really think it depends. But I do agree. I kind of feel like I wouldn't so much class a KOL as an ambassador. I'd more class a KOL as a marketing channel for awareness in marketing-led growth, and an ambassador maybe on the user-generated side of community-led growth. So, and by the way, if you listen to this and you don't know what I'm going on about, then learn about the magnet method, because then it will make a bit more sense. But yeah, two completely different things and almost different stages of growth. So yeah, nevertheless, I think one thing that we haven't quite touched on yet, I think is one of the most important aspects of growth in Web3, is narrative. And there is a narrative in a project that you may or may not be heavily involved in right now. So I'm going to ask you a very straightforward question. What is your favorite narrative? I think I probably know what this one is. And also, why is that your favorite narrative of this cycle?
Right. So yeah, I mean, if anybody has been following me, and I think it's over here, isn't it? The name. Go and follow me, and within 5 seconds, you'll be able to know what my favorite narrative in this space is. But I even want to call it a narrative. So let me just dive into it. Decentralized physical infrastructure network. So DePIN. It's all about taking real world infrastructure networks that provide services. So telecoms, it could be ride sharing, it could all of these sort of things, and decentralizing it. So giving the ownership of the operation of that network and the future of that network, the expansion of that network, back to the people that are using it. So the reason why this is my favorite narrative is because within that definition, I didn't mention blockchain or crypto or tokens once. And that is how, we talked earlier in this podcast about the communication problem. Like, we also don't need to start off on trying to educate people about the ideology of decentralization. In my opinion, all we need to do is integrate into already in-demand services that are there that people are already using to onboard the next billion to crypto. So for decentralized physical infrastructure networks, Deepin, it allows us to do this relatively easy. So at World Mobile, what we are, we're a decentralized telecoms a project, company, been around for 6 or 7 years now, in 3 countries, nodes operating, but our purpose is basically to provide internet and mobile services to people. Everybody watching this right now is using the internet. Everybody using the internet right now to watch this is paying a monthly bill, 10, 20, 30, 40, $50. And it's the one cost that you probably just accept, and you probably just keep paying it no matter, like, you might renegotiate once in a while, but that is something that is always ongoing because of the value you get from it, basically. If we can integrate crypto blockchain into the back end of that, so the user just continues to pay their internet bill, but the internet that they're getting is either higher quality or the bill that they're getting is lower cost, they will switch, because it's no different from switching, like here in the UK, like from Talk to BT to Virgin. They're just focused on the value at the end. And for me, that's how you get people engaged in crypto. Once they're then in that service, or getting that service that they value so much, then it's all about saying, hey, okay, so how about a discount for your internet bill if you stake something? Or how about getting your internet for free if you host a node to provide internet to other people? Or you might even not just get your internet for free, but you might earn from it, because everybody that connects to the node you're hosting is also paying the same internet bill, and you get a cut of that. But the point is to hook them in at, hey, we can give you better internet or cheaper internet. And this is World Mobile's perspective. And that's the value proposition. So in conclusion, I like Deepin because it focuses on real world services, users, and where they're already at. It doesn't focus on educating about crypto.
The best thing about everything there is just how jumped up you got as soon as this question came around. Like, bro, I could see the passion oozing out of you. Like, I'm surprised you're still in your chair right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, the suspension on the chair is going for it, but I genuinely just don't understand like how we've had all these such intelligent people in this space that seem to think that everyone is a prime petri dish for this whole decentralized ideology. It's just not where the world's at. Like, we look at in the same time that crypto has been developing in terms of a financial service offering, so is fintech. And what's the difference between fintech and the challenger banks like Monzo, Revolut? They focus on the same technology behind the scenes, exactly the same technology behind the scenes in terms of like the bigger banks, but the UI and the UX and the user experience is much better. So for us, like, we still have MetaMask over the same period, and we still have to sign transactions every time. We still have to use these massive long, seed phrases. Why haven't people who are copying MetaMask copied Monzo and Revolut instead and focused on that rather than like, I really don't understand it. But I guess we're a young industry and we need people to push the focus on users and experience and real world services and things that are in demand.
Yeah. I agree. I think that, like, from building my own project in %, like, it's quite simple. Like, you can buy an online course anywhere and you'll never be able to resell it we call them MOOCs, massive open online course marketplace, essentially, like a Udemy or something like that. You want a certain course about, I don't know, you want to learn about Web3, for example, you can go to Udemy, buy a course, you spend whatever amount of money, you'll never see that again. Or you can go to our platform, you can buy the course and you have the option to click sell and resell the course afterwards, like what you're going to choose, as long as the UI and UX remains the same and the quality is the same, or if
Yeah.
not better, what are you going to choose? And I suppose it comes down to the same as what you guys are trying to do in terms of using Web3 and the technology available to us to provide more value to users. And like you said, it could be cheaper, it could be higher quality. There's a ton of different ways that you can improve value for users using this technology. For us at Percent, what I was just talking about, and online disrupting the online course market, it's really about ownership, which provides value to the user in terms of being able to resell because they own their access to education as an asset. For you guys, it can be something different. Like you said, if you go and run the node, you don't have to pay for internet. Great, So yeah, you're right. We just have to try and get this out there. And
Well, to be honest, I do think we're getting there. Like we have also, despite all of the all of the negatives we've sort of the criticisms, I would say, not negatives, the criticisms we've had of this industry during this discussion, we have to remember that we're only 15 years old. Like literally 15 years old. A 15-year-old, like a human 15-year-old, won't have all the knowledge of how to navigate life. And it's the same thing with any industry. We don't have all the knowledge to navigate the real business world that focuses on, or has always focused on, utility. Like we're budding, we've got this new thing, we want to iterate it ever so slightly every single year to make it a bit better, but we just need to now focus on utility. And it seems like a simple change, but it is easy theoretically. So going back to sort of the comment I made earlier, like instead of simply saying, hey, we've got, I don't know, Ethereum, how do we make the gas cheaper? How do we make the block time faster? How do we make it more scalable? We can still ask those questions, but instead of just asking those questions in abstract, how about we say, okay, the challenge we want to solve is that apps are owned by the big corporations. So what is the volume of transactions needed to service the same as, I don't know, the developer of GTA 6, for example, to service that to that particular use case? Okay, we've got those numbers now. How do we get Ethereum there? That's all it takes. Like it's still going to be the same questions, but now it's just focused on, hey, all GTA users can now play a game on Ethereum instead of simply abstract.
Yeah, I mean, it's a seriously important point. I think it's a strong one to lead the podcast on, to be honest. We've covered a lot here, and I think there's a ton of value in it for anyone in the marketing and growth field, or even if you're just in Web3 and you're trying to work out what is next and how marketing and growth drives that, whether it's from a narrative perspective, community perspective, development perspective. There's been a lot of stuff in here. So I really appreciate you coming on, Emmanuel, the Web3 cat. I mean, look, if people want to get involved in what you're doing, I'm assuming maybe join the World Mobile community and
I mean, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's always a great discussion to talk about the future of this space, and especially communications. Like that's my field. But if anyone wants to get in touch, DM and I can direct you to the appropriate channels. Like obviously follow World Mobile. There's a lot of stuff we do, so it might be a bit complicated, but I'm literally here to give anyone a helping hand.
Awesome. Well, look, mate, thank you again for coming on. I hope to see you at an event shortly. And yeah, best of luck with everything at World Mobile. I'm sure you're going to keep smashing it.
Likewise, man, and congratulations on the launch of Magnet, and I know it's going to be successful. Hopefully, we'll be engaging you not too shortly.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. All right, brother. Take care.
Take care.